think you made it your wedding.
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. I love my wife. I'm going to get in trouble for that, aren't I?
Yeah.
Well, good morning, crime spies. Welcome to my morning voice. Anyway, so yesterday was kind of a cluster, if you get my drift. I did 2 videos. One I took down, but I was only getting my information of what's going on with this trial by watching a few accounts on Twitter. One is Muddy River News, and the other one was KHQA, which ended up ditching in the afternoon because it was too hard to, like, you know, they would sort of say the same thing, but not really, and I was frustrated, so I was just doing Muddy River News. So I did, right around the lunch hour, I did just a verbal reading of kind of a script I had put together from the little crumbs I was getting on Twitter. And then come the end of the day, the jury was actually let go early, and I did another video where I put the actual words I was reading up on the screen in like a slideshow format. It was very, very kindergarten level, but it's all I could do in the short period of time. So today I'll hopefully work on a little better format for you. And then later, the opening statements were released, which is this first video we're going to watch. I have it on 1.25 speed. The audio of the judge flip-flopping his papers is not Gucci, and it doesn't appear that there's any kind of microphone over by the jury box. So I'm really ticked off because this case is, number one, fairly recent. I mean, the murder, she was found dead February 23rd, so just a few months, like 3 months ago. And I know the clip that is in the beginning of this where he says, "Said I do," that one, I had like over 250,000 views of that clip on my YouTube channel. And so for us to get these little dribbles of information via Twitter is kind of dumb. I'm just venting because I haven't had enough coffee. And you know when it's time to go to the grocery store? When all you have left is instant coffee. Anyway, so then later on, after I had posted my video and I saw that there was opening statements, naturally, after I was done with filming mine, or video, or whatever, then I asked Muddy Rivers, well, where the heck is the testimony we were supposed to get? And they were able to send me a second video that I will play right after this. I'm not going to be talking over it because I'm going to be going through the little notes I had and making sure that anything I put in the video yesterday is indeed fact, and I'm going to be reading some articles that were again written after the court proceeding had taken place. But again, why should we have to wait until like way late at night or early the next day to know what happened? I mean, isn't the whole purpose of having video in the courtroom so we can see what's going on? And then this judge is like, oh, well, yeah, we'll release the video after, you know, the morning after each break or morning break, and then at the end of the day. Well, that didn't happen. And I have a hard time believing that the witness testimony after this opening statements one has all 11 witnesses. There were 7 in the morning yesterday and 4 in the afternoon. So I'm kind of ticked. And also on YouTube, I will be working on putting together a playlist. So hopefully you can follow along. It's just kind of a cluster, you know what. So anyway, I did put the closed captioning on, and when I was watching it last night, or started watching it last night, the closed captioning, of course, as usual, it's not great, but I'm just going to have it on just because. And I'm going to move my little head icon up there because I just woke up like a half an hour ago. It's 6:07 a.m. And for those of you in the Crime Spies book club, I will be uploading the first chapter or 2 of either Glenn Beck's The Great Reset, or I'm going to do chapters chapter 3 and 4 of Red Handed. I'm not sure, but that I can do once this video is up. So people like Patriot Pollywog, you're gonna maybe be able to catch the live stream of that one. And I was gonna say something to PJ17. I forgot. Duh. Oh, I know. And for everyone who's listening right now, I'm going to put it in the comments below. But for those of you that watched the Letitia Stalk trial, about halfway through, I had an across the pond guest, Absurd Beats. He's a musician and music producer out of UK. And after I was done live streaming yesterday, I was kind of just over the news because I was mad about the way this story's being released. And I thought, I wonder if Absurd Beats has got anything new. And he does. It is absolutely fantastic. I think I've listened to it like at least a dozen times. I had my daughter listen to it. It's just kind of like in my brain right now, the chorus of it. So if you have a chance, I'll post the link below because I don't want to show it. It's his property. And I'd like to see his channel grow. He had 2 followers and now he's got 4. So maybe spreading the good word is going to get him some recognition. You got to read the words that are in the description box along with the music in order to kind of understand. And that's why I was really excited. My daughter loved it because that's kind of the demographic that the words are pertaining to. And then I do like how he changed it at the end, the chorus at the end, the very last 2 sentences. From they to we. He's brilliant. This is brilliant. That's really good. Anyway, so if you chance, listen to that. I had to look up what the title meant because his vocabulary is way better than mine. All right, I'm done talking. So have a wonderful day. I'll play this again. It's in 1.25 speed, and then I'll go right from this to the witnesses, and then I'll talk on the other side.
The attorneys to give their opening statements. And Mr. Jones, would you like to make an opening statement?
I would.
All right. You may proceed.
Mr. Jones
please
is
record.
the prosecuting state attorney.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The last minutes of Becky Bliefnick's life were not spent surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones. The last minute of Becky's life was not spent in the warm embrace of her 3 children, Deacon, Grayson, and Autumn. The last minutes of Becky's life were not spent in love and compassion and tenderness. No, the last minutes of Becky's life were spent in fear and pain and terror as she lay on the cold gray tiles of her bathroom floor, slowly bleeding to death. Just a few seconds before that, Becky heard the upstairs bedroom window crash. She didn't know that at that exact moment someone was prying in that window, prying it open with a crowbar. All she knew was that she was home alone. No one else was supposed to be in the house. Her 3 boys were supposed to be at their father's house, less than a mile away. She ran into her bedroom. She slammed her bedroom door shut. She frantically tried to dial a number on her phone. But that bedroom door was forced open. It was broken open. The door frame was broken, and the phone fell out of her hand. The last number that she frantically tried to dial, 91126. The door forced open. She ran away. She ran into her bathroom, and she turned around, and she heard a shot. And she fell to the ground. She fell on her back, and she looked up into the eyes of her murderer. She looked up into eyes that she had looked into before, into eyes that had promised her once, till death do us part. She looked into the eyes of her murderer, her husband, the defendant. And the defendant looked down at Becky, and he pointed a gun at her, and he pulled the trigger. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 14 times, riddling her body with bullets. And then he ran away. He fled, leaving Becky lying there on the floor to die alone. They say when you confront your death, your life flashes in front of your eyes. We will never know what was going through Becky's mind as she lay there alone, slowly bleeding to death. her heartbeat slowing, her breath fading, her life and her blood draining away. But what we do know is that this tragic and violent end began on January 21st, 2021, when the defendant, her husband, filed for divorce. The divorce was contentious, to say the least. In fact, at one point, the defendant described it as brutal. They didn't agree on anything. They didn't agree on custody of their children, parenting time. They didn't agree on child support. They didn't agree on how much maintenance, spousal support, the defendant should pay to Becky. They didn't agree on the assets from the marriage. Becky thought the defendant was hiding money. They didn't agree about the defendant's father. Becky didn't want their 3 children to be around the defendant's father unsupervised. And in fact, he hadn't been for 2 years. They didn't agree on that either, though. In a letter sent by the defendant's attorney on January 3rd, 2023, the defendant said he wanted the kids 60% of the time, that he wouldn't pay any child support, that he would only pay $750 a month in maintenance, and that he would give the marital home, the house that Becky and her 3 boys had been living in since the defendant moved out and filed for divorce 2 years prior. Becky had purchased a CZ 75 9mm handgun during the course of the marriage. She wanted that gun back. She told her attorney she wanted that gun back because she was scared. She told her attorney she wanted that gun back for protection. She told her attorney she wanted that gun back for protection from the defendant. They didn't agree about that either. Becky told her family that she was scared of the defendant, scared of what he might do to her. She sent a text to her sister, a text that you will see, a text message from September 4th, 2021, 18 months before she was murdered. That text message said the following: if something ever happens to me, please make sure that the #1 person of interest is Tim, if that is who would do something to me. I'm putting this in writing that I'm fearful he will somehow harm me, come after me, or will try to do something to me that takes me away from the kids, or the kids away from me. He's already lied multiple times to paint himself as the victim and me as the perpetrator, when it is absolutely the other way around. No, I have not sent this to Mom or Dad, because I don't want them to be out of their mind with worry. In May of 2021, she told another friend that the only way the defendant had to make sure that their 3 boys chose him over her was to eliminate her as a choice. You'll hear from other friends who will tell you that Becky said the same thing or similar things to them, that she told them that if anything ever happened to her, it was the defendant that did it, that the defendant told her she wasn't going to get away with his money, and that the defendant told her he was tired of playing her stupid little games. In March of 2022, less than a year before her body was found, shot 14 times, laying on that bathroom floor, she told a friend that the defendant wanted her to suffer, that he cared more about hurting me than anything else, and that she would never trust him to let him in the house if it was just us. Becky told her friend in that same conversation, less than a year before her body was found, shot 14 times, laying on that bathroom floor, that she was super nervous for when this ended, and that if the defendant didn't get his way, he might literally lose his mind. Well, the end of the divorce was finally in sight for Becky in February of 2023. The final hearings were scheduled to start on March 2nd, 2023. She was going to testify about the children, about the defendant's father. She had witnesses lined up and subpoenaed and to testify about that thing. She was going to testify about the assets. She was going to testify about the marital home. Her day in court was coming. The end was in sight. The hearings were scheduled. A judge was going to make a decision. But Becky never got to testify. She never got to have her witnesses called. She never got to have her day in court. Because on February 23rd, 2023, the defendant murdered her. Now, we'll never know exactly what was going through the defendant's mind after he fired those 14 bullets into Becky's body as she lay on that floor. We'll never know what was going through his mind as he ran away from the scene. But what we do know is that when he fled, when he ran away, he had not committed the perfect crime. He made mistakes. Mistakes that ultimately led to his arrest. Mistakes that ultimately led to us sitting here May 23rd, 2023, 3 months to the day from Becky's murder. Mistake number 1. All around Becky's body were small pieces of plastic. Pieces of a plastic bag. Pieces of a plastic Aldi bag that the defendant had used to wrap around the gun to try to make a homemade silencer to collect the shells that are ejected from the fire. But that bag didn't work. In fact, mistake number 2, all around Becky's body were 8 shell casings. And mistake number 3, when the defendant had climbed up to that second-story bedroom window and pried open the crowbar, he left tool marks on that window. And less than a week later, when the police were able to obtain a search warrant for the defendant's home, they found multiple Aldi bags that were consistent with the pieces that were found all around Becky's body. And on those small pieces of plastic, there was DNA. And the defendant's DNA couldn't be excluded from that DNA. In fact, it's 8 times more likely that it's the defendant's DNA than 2 unrelated individuals. And in the basement of the defendant's home, they found a crowbar. And that crowbar couldn't be eliminated from making the tool marks that were found on that bedroom window. And in fact, that crowbar has microscopic details. And that tool mark has microscopic details. And the microscopic details on the crowbar and on the tool mark are consistent. And in the basement of the defendant's home, the police found 27 shell casings. Now, each time the semi-automatic handgun fires a bullet, a shell is ejected, and the bullet goes through the barrel. And each time a gun fires a bullet, both that bullet and that shell casing are marked by the mechanics of that gun. And just like fingerprints, each gun leaves the same mark on every bullet and every shell casing it fires. And just like fingerprints, everybody has a different fingerprint, well, every gun leaves different marks on the bullet and shell casings that it fired. The Illinois State Police examined the bullets that were removed from Becky's body and the bullets that were found at the scene, and they found that all of those bullets were fired by the exact same gun. And they examined the 8 shell casings that were found all around Becky's body, and they found that all 8 of those shell casings were fired by the exact same gun. And they examined the 27 shell casings that were found in the defendant's home. All 27 of those shell casings were fired by the exact same gun. And the 27 shell casings that were found in his home, and the 8 shell casings that were found all around Becky's body, those were compared. And guess what? All those shell casings were fired by the exact same gun. The 27 casings that were found in his home were fired by the exact same gun that shot and killed Rebecca Bliefnick on February 23rd, 2023. But his mistakes didn't just begin and end on February 23rd, 2023. In January of 2023, just a few weeks before he killed Becky, he asked a neighbor who lives directly to the east of him, he asked him, do you have any video cameras that cover your backyard? And remember how Becky had not wanted the defendant's father to be around the boys and how he hadn't been around them for 2 years? Well, on February 23rd, 2023, hours before anyone except her killer knew that she was dead, the defendant brought a little Pikes basketball to his father's house. And on February 23rd, 2023, those 3 boys, Deacon, Grayson, and Harlan, they were supposed to walk home to Becky's house. But instead of doing that, the defendant arrived an hour early. An hour before the boys were released from school. An hour early to pick them up and make sure that he took them home and that they didn't walk home. His mistakes didn't end there either. The police selected and analyzed the defendant's computer, his phone, and his Whoop Fitness armband. He had a Whoop Fitness armband that he wore. And when the police searched the defendant's phone, they found things that he had searched for on the internet. And while we don't know the exact dates and times of these searches, we do know that the defendant's phone shows searches for the following. How to open my door.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
We are going to have argument outside the presence of the jury. If I could have the court reporter, counsel, and the defendant all rise. Right. Defendant's motion was denied. Mr. Jones, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The police searched the defendant's phone. They found that he'd searched for things on the internet. We don't know the dates and times of these searches, but we do know that his phone shows searches for the following. How to open my door with a crowbar. can I force open my door with a crowbar if I lock myself out? How to make a homemade pistol silencer. Average Quincy, Illinois Police Department response time. How can I check if a gun is registered to me? Does my whoop record the exact times I wear it? How to clean gunpowder off your hands. From that same phone, we know the defendant was on a website about how to open a window from the outside, and another website about how to use a crowbar to open a door. And when the police investigated the days and weeks before Becky's murder, they learned that neighbors were worried about a prowler, and the defense may try to suggest this crime was committed by a random prowler who somehow obtained and used a gun to kill Becky, which naturally shell casings in the defendant's basement. But the police investigated this random prowler theory, and guess what they found out? That random prowler sits before you today. That random prowler isn't random at all. That random prowler is the defendant. Now we know that on the evening of February 13th, 2023 at 11:44 p.m., Ted Johnson, a man that Becky had been seeing, came to her house at 2528 Kentucky. 2528 Kentucky Road, and he spent the night. He parked his truck in Becky's driveway on the south side of her house. He was there, and his truck was parked there from just before midnight on the 13th until 5:30 or 6 a.m. on February 14th, 2023. And we know that on that date and at that time, Ted's truck, the man she was seeing, had a Missouri license plate of 8DC-J55 and a specific 16-digit vehicle identification number. We know at the same time the defendant lives at 1641 Hampshire, about a mile from Becky's house. And on February 14, 2023, at 12:37 a.m., a random prowler was seen on Taylor Hyman's Blink driveway camera. Now, Mr. Hyman is Becky's next door neighbor. They share, well, not share, Mr. Hyman has a driveway between their houses, and he has a driveway camera, a Blink driveway camera. And at 12:37 a.m., a random prowler is seen on that camera. Now, we also know on February 14, 2023, at 12:29 a.m., a person is seen riding a bike south on 20th, away from the direction of the defendant's house and towards the direction of Becky's house. And at 12:31 a.m., that person is seen turning east on Prairie Avenue in the direction of Becky's house. And at 12:37 a.m., a person is seen, a random prowler is seen in Taylor Hyman's driveway, walking in the driveway between Taylor Hyman's house and Becky's home. Now, the defense will say, and rightfully so, you cannot tell from those videos who that person is. You can't see their face. You can't tell who it is. You can't see who it is just by looking at the video. But on February 14, 2023, at 12:52 a.m., you see a person riding a bike north on 20th Street in the direction of the defendant's home. And on February 14, 2023, between 1 a.m., 1:10 a.m., and 1:48 a.m., the defendant's work laptop was used to make over 200 searches. Searches for the following: license plate lookup, Illinois license plate lookup, free VIN check reports and VIN check, Missouri license plate lookup, free Missouri license plate lookup, Missouri state records, searching for 8DC-J55, the license plate from Ted Johnson's truck that at that exact moment was parked in Becky's driveway. Search results for the exact same 16-digit VIN number assigned to Ted's truck. And we know that on February 14, 2023, at 1:32 a.m., 1:32 in the morning, the defendant's phone was used to call 573-526-3669. That's the phone number for the Missouri Department of Revenue at 1:32 in the morning. Now, on February 22nd, 2023, a random prowler was again seen on Taylor Hyman's driveway camera at 1:05 a.m. and seen again at 1:53 a.m. And just like on February 14th, 2023, we see a person at 12:57 riding a bike south on 20th Street. And just like a week before, At 12:59, we see a person headed east on Prairie from 20th Street on a bike. And at 1:05, the random prowler in Taylor Hyman's driveway. And just like a week before, at 1:10 in the morning, we see a person headed north on 20th Street and in the direction of the defendant's home. Then, about 46 minutes later, about an hour later, at 1:46 in the morning, we see a person headed south on 20th Street, turning east on Prairie at 1:48, and at 1:53, just like a week before and just like about an hour before, random prowler on Taylor Hyman's driveway camera. And just like a week before and just like an hour before, we see a person headed north on 20th Street away from Becky's home and towards the defendant's home at 2:06 a.m. And on the date of Becky's murder, February 23rd, 2022, at 12:55 a.m., we see a person riding south on 20th Street by the bus barn. And at 12:57 a.m., we see a person riding south on 20th and turning east on Prairie. And at 1:11 and 10 seconds in the morning, we know that Becky's phone, which was found behind that door, that had been broken in, that had been shoved in, that had been damaged, that phone was found behind that door. And at 1:11 and 10 seconds in the morning on February 23rd, she tried to dial the number 91126. And at 1:12 a.m., her front door opened and stayed open. There's video from the bus barn on 20th Street and from Prairie on 20th Street on February 21st as well, showing the same thing. You'll get to see that as well. And as the defense will point out, and again, rightfully so, you cannot tell from those videos who is on the video. You can't tell solely from the video who it is. You can't see their face. You can't tell anything about them. But the defendant made a mistake. Remember how I told you that the police seized his computer and his phone? Well, you're also going to hear how the police found an abandoned bike less than half a block from the defendant's house. And how that bike didn't have any reflectors on its wheels, just like the bike on 20th Street. And you'll hear how on the defendant's phone he had a fake Facebook account under the name John Smith. And you'll hear how John Smith was looking at a blue bike with no reflectors on the wheel to purchase on Facebook. And you'll hear that on February 14th, between 2 p.m. and 1:10 a.m., when his computer started searching for Ted Johnson's phone number, license plate number, over 200 times, well, there was no computer activity on his computer at all between 2 p.m. and 1:10 a.m., and his phone wasn't being used. And on the 21st, when we see this person on 20th Street and turning east on Prairie, the defendant's computer, no activity, and his phone is locked. It isn't being used. And on February 22nd, 2023, when we see this mysterious person on the bike and the random prowler in Taylor Hyman's driveway, no activity on the defendant's computer, and his phone is locked. It isn't being used. And on February 23rd, the day of Becky's murder, at 12:55, the defendant's phone is locked, isn't being used, and there's no activity on his computer. And at 12:57, computer isn't being used, no activity, and his phone is locked and isn't being used. And at 1:11 a.m., when Becky is frantically trying to dial 911 on her phone, the defendant's phone is locked and isn't being used, and there's no activity on his computer. And at 1:16 a.m., and that person's riding their bike away from Becky's home, where there sits at that exact moment 8 shell casings around her then dying body. And they're riding towards the defendant's home, where there were 27 shell casings that exactly match those other 8 shell casings. The defendant's phone is locked, it isn't being used, and there's no activity on his computer. But beside the Aldi bag pieces with the defendant's DNA, the crowbar, the shell casing, the computer searches, the internet history, the video, the computer, and the phone activity, the defendant made one final mistake. You remember the defendant's computer was used to search for information about the Whoop fitness band, how he searched if it records when he wasn't wearing it or if it caught up. Well, the police seized that fitness armband, they seized it from his wrist, and they got a search warrant for it. And guess what they found? They received nearly 1.5 million entries from that Whoop armband. The defendant's Whoop armband recorded every second of every day from February 2nd, 2023 to February 28th, 2023. 1.5 million data points, 1.5 seconds, 1.5 entries, 1.5 million entries. Every second of every day, almost. Because when they searched, yes, when they found out it wasn't recorded. 1.5 million entries every second of every day. But it wasn't recording on February 14th, 2023, between midnight and 1:10 a.m. And on February 21st, 2023, when we see that person on the bike, it's not recording then either. And on February 22nd, doesn't record from 12:42 a.m. to 1:16 a.m. And on February 22nd, it doesn't record again from 1:39 a.m. to 2:19 a.m. 1.5 million seconds, 1.5 data points, 1.5 entries, nearly every second of every day, except for February 23rd, 2023.
Mr. Jones, I'm going to stop you just for a second. Counsel, what? Come up here. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Jones. You may proceed.
Every second of every day, except for February 23rd, 2023, from 12:36 a.m. to 2:01 a.m. That Whoop armband recorded every second of every day, but not the seconds, when the defendant rode a bike down 20th Street. Every second of every day, but not the seconds, when he climbed up to that second-story bedroom window and pried it open with a crowbar, just like he read on the internet. Every second of every day, but not the seconds, when he broke open that bedroom door. Every second of every day, but not the seconds, when he pointed a gun at Rebecca Bliefnick as she lay on that bathroom floor and pulled the trigger 14 times. That Whoop armband recorded every second of every day, but not the seconds when that man ran away, fled the scene, and left Becky on that floor, slowly bleeding to death. Terrified, scared, and alone.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Stock, before you start your opening, we are going to, I need to discuss something with counsel in chambers. Ladies and gentlemen, in the audience and the jury will be just a couple minutes, but you're able to stand up, stretch, do whatever you need to do. We will be right back.
Okay, so this is where these
We are back on the record and ready
so
for
they are
the
at least
defendant's
editing
opening
the
statement. And
empty
Ms.
out of
Stock,
the
you may be
video.
heard.
That's good.
May it please the court, counsel, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would tell you all thank you for being here, but let's be real, none of you had a choice. That was a good story that Mr. Jones just told you. And that's exactly what an opening statement is. It's a story. It's not evidence. The evidence is going to come from that chair right there through witness testimony and through exhibits. Just because Mr. Jones just said it in his opening statement, just because I make it or say it in my opening statement doesn't necessarily make it true. It doesn't make it evidence that you should consider in making your verdict. That's going to come from that chair right there. Now, the cool thing about being a juror in this matter is that you get to determine what you believe. You get to determine who you believe, who's credible, what's believable, what weight to put on the evidence. You get to determine what the evidence proves and what the evidence doesn't prove. You are the ones that make those decisions, nobody else does. Now, yesterday we went through several different propositions of law, and we asked you all about those different propositions of law, and your answers to those questions are one of the reasons why you are all sitting here today. And one of those propositions of law is that the burden of proof in this matter is on the people. It is on the state. It's not on me, and it's not on Tim. And the burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is not based on speculation. It's not based on conjecture. It's not based on lay opinion. It's not based on getting divorced. It's not based on having bad feelings towards your spouse. It's not based on inconclusive lab results. That's not reasonable doubt. And this case is dripping with reasonable doubt, and I want to talk to you all about that right now. The state's theory in this matter is that Tim left his 5-year-old, his 10-year-old, and his 12-year-old home alone in the middle of the night. He rode a bike from 16th in Hampshire to 24th in Kentucky Road. He shimmied up the side of his house and broke in using his crowbar. He walked in through the window, left a footprint on the floor, kicked down Becky's door and shot her 14 times, and then rode that bike back home. That's essentially what the state is wanting you to believe happened in this matter. But let's talk a little bit more about what the evidence actually is and what it shows and what it will not show. I want to talk about the bike. The bike was found somewhere around 18th Street abandoned. The state believes that that was the bike that was used in the commission of this crime. They believed in it so much that they took the handlebars off of that bike and they sent it to the Illinois State Crime Lab. And the reason that they did that was so that they could try to find DNA, fingerprints, something to link that bike to Tim. You will hear from the lab experts that did the testing on that bike, and you will not hear any evidence that there's any trace of his DNA or his fingerprints on that bike. You will also hear and you will see a lot of surveillance video. And you'll hear about the lengths that Quincy Police Department went to find viable, useful surveillance video in this matter in hopes that they could find the perpetrator of this crime somewhere between his house and her house. Now, they did find some video of somebody going somewhere, but that's all the video shows. You don't know if this is a man or a woman. You don't know if they're young or they're old. We don't know what race they are. We don't know how tall they are. We don't know how much they weigh. We don't know what colors they were wearing. We don't know where they were coming from. We don't know where we were going. Heck, we don't even know if this is the same person on each of these videos that you are going to see. The person on these videos is not identifiable by any characteristics whatsoever. And what I assert to you is that in order for you to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Tim killed his wife, as the state has said, then you are going to have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that that is Tim on that bike. Now, you are the ones that are going to ultimately make that decision. But what I am telling you right now, what the state told you in their opening statement, they've admitted it. You cannot tell who was on that bike, let alone with any degree of certainty say that it was Tim. Shimmied up the side of the house, used a crowbar to open the window. Now, during the course of the investigation, Quincy Police Department took a multi-tool and a crowbar from Tim's possession. I'll give them that. He did have that. I think during one of the searches, he actually told the police where the multi-tool was. But they were so certain that this crowbar was used in the commission of the crime, and so certain that this multi-tool was used in the commission of the crime, that they sent it to the crime lab for further testing to try to identify the tool marks and match the tool to the marks, because arguably, the tool that left the marks is the tool that was used to open the window. They tested the multi-tool. The multi-tool was excluded completely being used in the commission of this crime. They tested the crowbar. The crowbar is inconclusive, folks. They cannot say with any reasonable degree of certainty or scientific certainty that that crowbar opened that window. If that isn't enough reasonable doubt for you, I'll keep going. The state's further theory is that the perpetrator of this crime broke open the window, stepped down onto a side table, and then left a footprint on the carpet. They were so certain about this footprint that they cut it out of the carpet and they sent it to the crime lab. They took no less than 6 pairs of Tim's shoes during the execution of their search warrants, presumably thinking that if Tim did this, certainly whoever left that footprint did the crime. You linked the footprint to Tim, case closed, job done. Well, you will hear about the testing that was done on that footprint, and you will hear that none of the shoes that were taken from Tim or anybody else in this matter can be linked to making that footprint. So we cannot say, the state cannot say, the crime lab cannot say with any reasonable degree of certainty that that footprint was made by Tim or any of Tim's shoes. Now, I suspect that you will also hear about one other individual who QPD took a picture of his shoe. I don't expect that you will hear any evidence that that person's shoe was ever analyzed. But that's for another day. Mr. Jones also talked about the Aldi bags that were found at the crime scene. Now, during the course of the investigation, nearly 800 tons of garbage was gone through. Ponds were searched, waste lagoons were searched, trailer parks were searched, wooded areas were searched. Nothing was found that could link those Aldi bags to Tim. They were so certain that those pieces of plastic were so important that they also sent those pieces of plastic to the state crime lab, and they could not match the pieces of plastic that were found at the crime scene to all the bags that were found at Tim's house. Again, reasonable doubt. It may not seem like a big deal if you look at it on its own, but if you look at the big picture here, folks, the evidence will not show proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Tim committed this crime. They have a great theory. I'll give that to them. The theory is great, the motive is there. I mean, they didn't really look at anybody else in this matter because the motive was so abundant, I guess, in their mind. But one thing we went over yesterday that you all agreed with is that motive is not something that they have to prove to you. Motive is not the element of the offense, and motive is not something that you will be asked to consider in your jury deliberations, because those are going to be outlined to you in the instructions that will be given at the close of this case, and those will be given to you by the judge. And we talked a little bit about those instructions yesterday because they're important, and all of you promised that you would follow the law. Not only did you promise that you would follow the law, but you promised to follow the law even if you didn't like it, even if you didn't agree with it. And that's all that we ask you, is that you follow the law in this matter. And I'm convinced if you listen to all of the evidence in its entirety, you will also be convinced that there's proof, that there is no proof beyond a reasonable doubt here. Because everything that they're giving to you from the crime lab, majority of it, is going to either exclude Tim or it's going to be inconclusive. Everything else is rhetoric, girl talk, and divorce talk. And that's something that we also touched on yesterday. Statistically speaking, 50% of us in this room have been divorced. Some of you talked about that, having to go through that experience yesterday. But getting divorced is not an element of murder. People are not always on their best, or people are not always their best when they're going through a divorce. Things are sad. Oh, that happens. I've been doing divorce law for 12, 13 years now, and I have yet to see a good one. No divorce is good, but it's not murder. Their divorce was winding down. It had been set for a final hearing several times before Becky's murder. There was no reason that Tim had to do this. It was winding down for both of them. And you can say what you want about a divorce. They can be messy, they can be ugly. But at the end of the day, it's not anything that you are going to be asked to consider in the jury instructions that will be given to you at the end of this case. There is some procedure, and there is a method to the madness if you guys haven't figured that out yet. Because the state has a burden of proof in this matter, they will get to put on their evidence first and call their witnesses first. But just because they're calling the witness doesn't mean that they don't have information that is helpful to our defense, to Tim's case. That doesn't mean that just because the state calls them doesn't mean that they can't provide to you proof that he is not guilty, that he did not do this. So when you're listening to these witnesses and you're looking at the evidence on that screen, ask yourselves, what does this really prove? All of us had to go through metal detectors when we walked into this building today. And one thing that you were not asked to check at the door is your common sense. So what I ask you before we get into this is listen to the evidence, ask yourself, what does it prove, and utilize your common sense. Thank you.
Muddy River News. Our home.
Okay, now I gotta find
our
the second
news.
one. Please hold. I'm a little bit more awake than I was 45 minutes ago. Okay. Okay, so then this says morning witnesses. So basically that means where are the afternoon witnesses? If this is how
The
this whole
following
entire
is a
trial
presentation
go,
of
I'm going to lose my mind. Okay. All right. Sorry, people. I'm trying to do the best I can. Please do not hit the thumbs down button. I'd rather you put a comment that says you suck very badly, Crime Spies, than do a thumbs down. I'm just doing the best I can. You ready?
Muddy River News.
And Ms. Keck, you may inquire.
William Postal.
So this is Becky's dad. He's the first witness of the
Is in
day.
Paul, O-S-T-L-E.
Thank you.
And it's postal. I was pronouncing it postal in my
Yes.
summary, sorry.
You and your wife have any children?
Yes.
Tell us what children you have.
Sarah is the oldest, Becky is the youngest.
And how old was Becky before she passed away?
Let's see. She was born in 81, so whatever that,
Okay, so she was born in 1981.
Right.
Can you tell us, was Becky married?
Yes, she was.
Who was she married to?
Jim Bliefnick.
Did they have any children?
Yes,
How many children did they have?
3 children.
Oh, for the love of Pete, they don't
Yes,
even show
that's
the
correct.
video.
During the course of their marriage, did Becky buy a gun for Mr. Bliefnick, her husband?
Yes, she did.
Was that gun a CZ-75 gun?
It was.
Do you have possession of that weapon?
I do not.
Do you know when the last time you would have even seen that weapon was?
It's been over a year ago.
Mr. Postal, I want to talk to you about February 23rd, 2023, okay?
Yes,
On that day, did you get a message from Timothy Bliefnick?
I did. I got a text message from Tim.
Did you receive that at about 3:03 in the afternoon on that day?
That is the date that was on the text.
Mr. Postal, I'm handing you what we've marked as People's Exhibit Number 1. Can you review that and tell us what that is?
Yes. Yes, that looks like what I received.
I'm sorry, can you tell us that a little bit louder?
I say yes, that looks like the text that I received.
The text message that you received from Timothy Bliefnick
That
on
is-
February 23rd?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, I ask that People's Exhibit 1 be admitted and published for the jury.
Any objection, Ms. Schnock?
No, Your Honor.
It will be admitted and published to the jury.
Mr. Postal, you see up here, it shows the phone number that you received that message from, and then that, which was 217-257-3666, correct?
I don't know off.
That's the number at the very top of that.
Yes, yes,
And then it was to your number, 217-242-5335.
that's correct, yes.
I just wanted to say, according to the comment on YouTube, it does look like this, the only saving grace of this whole entire communication with the court nightmare is somebody posted, "Thank you for editing and posting trial footage." So it does look at least that this is all edited and all the breaks and stuff are cut out. So that's good. And it looks like they realized they had to turn their camera on. I'm really hoping today goes more smoothly.
And I'm going to read that to you and make sure I'm reading it correctly. That text message that you received said, "Can you please call Becky and ask her to tell me when she's getting the boys today? I had them last night because she said she was sick, but she hasn't responded to any of the messages I sent today. And I don't know if she's still sick or if she's coming to get them or what's happening. I can keep that again tonight if needed, but I just need her to let me know what she wants to do." Is that what the message says?
That is what the message said.
And that's the message you received that day at 3:03? correct?
Yes, correct.
After you received that message, did you try to call Mr. Bliefnick?
Yes, I did, and I got no answer.
After you didn't receive an answer, tell us what you did.
It sounded like something that I needed to check out on my own, so I jumped in the car and drove over to the Bliefnick's house.
And where Becky was living at that time, it was at 2528 Kentucky Road
That's correct.
here in Quincy, correct?
Yes,
How far away do you live from Becky's house?
about 20 minutes away.
So you said you jumped in the car, so you arrived around 3:30, is that right?
Yes.
When you arrived at her house that afternoon, tell us what you did.
Before I got out of the car, I looked at the front of the house and I noticed that the front door was open. Meaning the inside door, the heavy wooden door that was there was open, and Becky always kept that closed. So it kind of set off an alarm to me. So I went into the house.
You went into the house. When you went into the house, did you see Becky?
No, I went into the house and I called her name out and I got no answer. So I walked down the hallway to the attached garage door, opened it up and looked to see if her car was there. Because if she was gone, then obviously she wouldn't answer.
Was
So
her car in the garage?
her car was in the garage, yes.
After you saw that her car was in the garage, where did you go?
I ran up the stairs, and since she supposedly was sick, I went to the bedroom to see if she was laying down, Didn't see anything in her bedroom, went into the attached bathroom, and that's when I found her body lying on the floor.
After you found her body lying on the ground, did you realize she was dead?
She looked like she was dead. So out of reflex, I went to check to see if she had any heartbeat. I picked up her arm, but rigor mortis had already set in, and her arm was stiff. I moved one of her legs, and the rigor mortis in her leg was also keeping me from moving her. So
What was your next thought that you needed to do?
call 911.
Were you able to call 911 right?
I was not, because I unfortunately had left my phone at home.
Since you had left your phone at home, where did you go?
I went over to the neighbors on the east side of Becky's house.
Is
And
that where Rollo Whitey lives?
that's correct. And I asked if I could use their phone, and I called 911.
Did you also call your wife Bernie?
Yes, I did.
And was it decided that Rollo would go get Bernie?
Yes, I believe she offered to go.
Mr. Postal, the last thing I want to show you is what we've marked as exhibit number 51.
Okay.
Mr. Postal, do you recognize that picture?
Yes, that's what I saw when I looked into the bathroom.
Does that reflect how your daughter looked that afternoon of February 23rd, 2023?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that People's Exhibit number 51 be admitted and published for the jury.
Any objection? Ms. Knock?
No, Your Honor.
It will be admitted, and you may publish it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no other questions.
Cross, Ms.
I
Schnock.
apologize. We have one more.
All right.
Your Honor, Mr. Postal, I'm sorry, I have one other question. We're talking about Becky's husband, Tim Bliefnick. Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes,
Can you tell us where he's sitting and what he's wearing, please?
he's sitting down here with a white shirt and a yellow tie.
Your Honor, the record reflects that Mr. Postal has identified the defendant, please.
The record will reflect that the witness has identified, excuse me, the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor. No other questions.
Ms. Schnock?
Thank you. Mr. Postal, are you absolutely certain that Tim did not answer your call the afternoon of February 23rd?
Yes,
Okay. So would it be correct that he did not instruct you to go to Becky's house that afternoon, but that was a decision that you made on your own accord?
he said something to the effect that it needs to be checked out.
Okay, so did you talk to Tim?
No, it was in a text.
Okay. And when you went up to the bedroom and you found Becky in the bathroom, were her pants ripped in the crotch area in that, when you found her as they were in that picture that was shown just up there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would you agree that the way that she was found in that picture, you did not disturb her in any way, correct?
No, like I said, I tried to pick up her arm and I did move her leg.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. No other questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may step down, sir. Yeah, it doesn't. I tried to blank it, but it wouldn't blank for me. Okay. Call your next witness.
Judge, the people would call Rollo Whitey.
Ma'am, if you would step up to the front of the courtroom, raise your right hand, and then be sworn by the clerk.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in a cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Okay, if you'll come around here, and then have a seat right here in this chair.
All right.
Scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable, ma'am. And then you can bend that microphone so it's in front of you, and please speak towards the microphone.
Okay.
All right? You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell me your name, please?
Rolla Wyke,
How do you spell your last name?
W-I-K-E.
Ms. White, where do you live right
I live 2536 Kentucky Road on the east side of the Bliefnick home.
That was going to be my next question. So your neighbors with,
Yes,
how long have you lived there?
47 years.
In those 47 years, when, if you remember, did the Bliefnicks move into the house next to you?
Approximately, I'm going to say 3 years ago, when the youngest one was about 2.5.
And while you were next door neighbors, did you talk to Becky from time to time?
Yes,
Did you talk to Tim from time to time?
occasionally.
I'm going to pause for just a second. So this is the neighbor of Becky. This is where Bill, the dad, went over and asked to use her phone because he had left his cell phone home after he found Becky deceased. Also, I kind of skippity-dooed ahead, and this video is the morning 7 witnesses. So this is the second of 7. If I remember right, the third one is an officer. Well, I'm not going to... I'll tell you on the other side. I still can't find the 4 witnesses in the afternoon video, FYI. But it does look at least that Muddy River News is editing these videos, taking out like the breaks and whatnot. I think the audio stinks, but maybe they'll fix it.
He was much quieter.
Is the person you know, is Tim Bliefnick the person that you talk to occasionally here in court?
Yes,
Can you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
sitting over there. Looks like I don't know if it's a white shirt or a gray and yellow tie.
Who has the record of what she's identified with?
The record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
I want to go forward a little bit to February 23rd, 2023, around 3:30 or after in the afternoon. Were you at home at that time?
Yes,
Around that time, was there a knocking on your door?
doorbell rang first, and then a pounding on the door. By the time I answered the door, I didn't see anybody, but then I saw a man walking away. He had a long coat, so I didn't recognize him, and I asked him if he wanted something, and he turned around, and it was Bill, Becky's father.
Bill Postal?
Yes,
Have you met Bill Postal before?
yes,
And did you know him?
yes,
You said that he was walking away. You asked him if he needed anything.
yes.
What happened next?
He said, I need to use your phone, call 911, Becky's dead.
Did you allow him into your house?
Yes,
And did he in fact call 911?
yes. He used my landline phone, which is a wall phone in the kitchen. Yeah.
After he called 911, did he do something else? Did he call someone?
Yes, he wanted to call his wife, and I gave him my cell phone. He had been laying on the table. I had been charging it, so I just gave him the phone number, and he dialed with my cell phone.
After he spoke with the other person on that cell phone, did you offer to do something?
Yes.
What did you offer to do?
Well, she was, his wife, Bernadette, wanted to drive up to Quincy. He didn't want her to drive, and so I said I would go get her and bring her back up.
So you left the house at that point?
Well, no, he wanted to go back over to Becky's house, and he said he'd write the instructions on how to get to their house, because they lived in the country south of Marblehead. And so we went over there, and he wrote the instructions. I came back, got in my car, and left to pick her up.
And if you picked up Bernie, his wife?
Yes,
And you were driving back to Quincy?
yes,
Did Bernie make a phone call?
yes, she made 2.
Okay, I want to talk about one phone call.
Okay.
Did she make a phone call that you overheard?
Yes, the first call,
And who was that to?
that was to Tim. She said I have to call Tim.
When she was on the phone, was the phone up by her ear? Was it in front of her face?
No, she was holding it in her hand like this.
And you could hear the voice on the other side
Yes,
of that phone?
yes,
Was it a voice that you recognized?
yes,
Was it the voice of the defendant?
yes.
What did you hear the defendant say in that conversation with Bernie and when you picked her up on the afternoon of the 23rd of February 2023?
Well, she told him what happened, that Becky was found dead, and that he said, what? And then she said some other things I don't remember, but he said, well, the school had called him because Becky didn't pick up the boys, so they called him.
He said that the school had called him.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Ms. Schnock?
Ms. White, how long would you say that you've known Mr. Bliefnick?
Well, I met him when they first moved in, approximately 3 years ago.
Okay. And do you live directly next to Becky, or was there a house that separated?
No, I'd lived directly.
Okay. And would you have been home the night of February 22nd going into the morning of February 23rd?
Yes.
And did you hear or see anything unusual
No.
that evening? Okay. And when you overheard the conversation between Bernie and Tim, he was surprised to hear the news, correct?
Objection,
Yes.
speculation?
That will be sustained. I'll ask you to rephrase that question, Ms. Schnock.
And it's your best recollection that Tim's response to Bernadette was what?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything that you observed in the neighborhood on February 22nd or 23rd that was unusual?
No.
And you did not see Tim at Becky's house anytime February 22nd or 23rd, correct?
No.
No other questions, Judge?
Mr. Jones, any redirect?
No other questions, move to release Ms. Wyke from her subpoena, Your Honor.
Okay. Ma'am, you can step down, you're free to go.
Thank you.
I've confirmed with the defense there's no objection to her being released.
Call your next witness.
People would call Roberta Hudson to the stand.
Ma'am, if you could step up to the front of the courtroom and then raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk.
I tell you what, they better fix this today because this is really getting irritating.
If you could step up.
And I'm going to get thumbs down. And if I do,
Right here in this
I'm going to be
chair.
really mad because this isn't my
And
fault.
then scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable. And then. if
Thank you
could
for letting me
use
vet
that
Morning
microphone
Crime
bend,
Spies.
Make sure it's in front of you and speak towards the microphone, please. You may
Vent,
inquire.
not vet.
Your Honor, can you tell me your name?
Roberta Hudson.
And Ms. Hudson, I'm going to have you get a little bit closer to the microphone.
Okay, Roberta Hudson works for the school.
One more time. Can you tell me your name?
Roberta Hudson.
Try one more time. Hold that microphone.
Roberta Hudson.
There we go. Can you spell your last name for me?
Hutson.
Ms. Hudson, what do you do for a living?
I'm a secretary
At what
at
school?
St. Peter's School
How long have you done it?
for 8 years.
In the 8 years that you've been the secretary of the school, do you know some of the parents of the children there?
Yes,
Specifically, do you know Becky and Tim Lee?
yes,
Have you met them before?
yes,
And they had 3 little boys, right?
that is correct.
And those boys went to St. Peter's School?
Yes, they do.
And what were the names of the little boys?
Deacon, Grayson, and Arlen.
I want to talk to you about February 23rd, 2020. Okay?
Yes,
You are the school secretary, you told us, is that right?
yes,
On February 23rd, 2023, did you call Tim Bliefnick and report any issues at school?
no,
To your knowledge, did anyone at St. Peter's call Tim Bliefnick?
not to my knowledge.
In fact, did you receive a phone call from Tim Bliefnick?
Yes, I did.
And about what time did you receive that phone call?
11:51.
What was the nature of that phone call? What did Mr. Bliefnick say?
He said he was unable to get in touch with Becky, and he knew the boys were going to be walking home, and he told me that he would be picking them up instead of having them walk home.
Was that unusual to you in this sense? Before February 23rd, 2023, did the defendant or Becky Bliefnick regularly call you and talk to you about how the boys were going to get home?
No,
On February 23rd, 2023, did the defendant in fact come to St. Peter's to pick up children?
yes, he did.
Are there cameras at St. Peter's in the parking lot? Or the view part of the parking lot?
Yes,
And did you get a chance to look at those videos?
yes,
When you watch those videos, did those videos show the defendant arriving at St. Peter's School?
yes.
And approximately what time did he arrive at St. Peter's School on February 23rd, 2023?
1:50,
What time is dismissal at St. Peter's School?
2:47,
So about an hour before the dismissal evening began.
yes.
On February 23rd, 2023, when the defendant arrived, what was he driving?
A CRV, Honda CRV,
Do you remember what color it was?
a rust red, orange kind of color.
On February 23rd, 2023, when the defendant arrived about an hour early for pickup, were there any other parents in the parking lot waiting that early?
No,
The day before, on February 22nd, 2023, did the defendant arrive an hour early?
no,
The person you know as Tim Bliefnick, is he here in court today?
yes.
Could you identify him?
Sitting at the table with the yellow tie.
We'd ask that the record shows the witnesses identify the defendant.
the record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
And if I could approach the witness.
You may.
Ma'am, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2 and People's Exhibits 3. It's 2 CDs. The first one says St. Peter's Arrival, and the second one says St. Peter's Departure. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity, you've seen the video on both of those? Correct?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us what that video shows in general? What's it, a camera, not specifically, but in general, what it shows?
It shows our parking lot and the students entering, the cars entering the parking lot, the students entering the building or leaving the building.
When you watch that video, there's a timestamp on that video?
Yes.
Is that timestamp correct?
It's off by 18, 20 minutes.
And you know that because you know what time dismissal is?
That's correct.
And so if the dismissal video shows, let's say 2:30 on it, you know that that's not what dismissal is?
That's correct.
So the videos are off all the time by about 20 minutes?
Yes.
Other than that, are there any other issues with the video, or the video working correctly?
No. Not,
That's a bad question.
Okay.
Let's try again. Answer 2 questions.
okay.
Other than the timestamp, were there any other issues with the video?
I don't understand your question.
Were the videos working right?
Yes, they were. Okay.
I guess I'm not talking about the lawyers. Judge, I ask that People's Exhibits 2 and 3 be introduced into evidence and be published to the jury.
Ms. Stock, any objection?
No, Judge.
The court will admit 2 and 3, and they may be published to the jury.
For the record, Your Honor, I will first play People's Exhibit 2, and then I may ask. Thank you. We've now watched People's Exhibit 2. Ms. Hudson, the rust color SUV that you talked about, is that what we see here on the upper left-hand corner?
Yes.
And the time here says 13:33:49. You shared with us that a normal person time has 1:30, but it's actually 1:30 or 1:53, give or take.
Give or take.
For the record, I am now showing People's Exhibit 3 on the screen. And ma'am, the time on there shows 14:32:12. Again, normal person time, that would be 1:32, but as you shared with us, I'm sorry, 2:32. And as you shared with us, it's about 20 minutes off, so it's
Yes.
2:50, give or take.
Yes.
And ma'am, we saw a orange or red rust color SUV leave about that time, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all the questions I have. If I get just a moment, we'll run the screen.
You may. All right, Ms. Stock.
Ms. Hudson, as far as your conversation with Tim the morning of February 23rd is concerned, there was nothing abnormal about that conversation, correct?
No.
Okay. And as far as, well, let's take a step back. How many students attend St. Peter's approximately?
466.
And can I assume correctly that St. Peter's frowns upon parents leaving their children at school at the end of the day?
I don't know what you're asking.
Does St. Peter's expect their parents to pick their children up on time at the end of the school day?
Yes.
Okay. And does the school tend to frown upon parents leaving children at the end of the day without appropriate transportation arrangements? You want kids to have somewhere to go at the end of the day, and not be
Yes.
stuck at school.
That is correct.
That causes a lot of problems for faculty, for staff, and for the kids especially, correct?
For their safety.
Absolutely. So if parents have issues picking up their kids at the end of the day, does St. Peter's appreciate them communicating with that sooner rather than later?
Yes.
And why do you do that?
For their safety.
All right. So there is nothing unusual about a parent calling the school and making arrangements for their children to get picked up at the end of the day. Is that fair?
That's fair.
No other questions, Your Honor? Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Jones?
Before February 23rd, 2023, had this defendant called you to make special arrangements for the boys any other time?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
You may step down. All right, and is she released from her subpoena?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, the people would release her from her subpoena.
Any objections?
Not to that, Your Honor, no.
Okay, you may go. And before we call the next witness, we need to switch out this chair so we have one with rollers so it can be moved. Thank you. And then Mr. Jones, your next witness.
People would call Brian Lash to the stand.
Sir, if you could step up to the front of the courtroom, raise your right hand, and then be sworn by the clerk here.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, now if you could come around here and have a seat right here in this chair. And kind of scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable, and then bend that microphone so it's in front of you, and please speak towards the microphone. You may inquire.
Can you tell me your name?
Brian Lash.
Mr. Lash, can you spell your last name before recording?
That's Lash.
Mr. Lash, what do you do for a living?
I own a cafe, Crazy Cakes, just right down the street here.
Right down the street?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lash, I don't need your specific address, but what road do you live on here?
Kentucky.
Do you live across the street from anyone?
Yeah, directly across from Becky.
You live directly across from who?
Rebecca.
Is that Becky Bliefnick?
Yes.
How long have you lived at that house on Kentucky Road?
3 years.
I want to move forward then to the morning of February 23rd, 2022, okay?
Okay.
That morning, what time did you get up
I'm up at about 5:30 every morning, give or take.
to get to work?
I left for work about 6:45, 6:50, something like that.
When you left for work around 6:45 or 6:50, did you notice anything unusual across the street?
The front door was open, I noticed.
Why did you think that was unusual?
I've never even seen anybody go in or out that door, ever. So it just was weird that it was open to me.
In the 3 years that you were living there, you'd never seen that front door open?
I never saw anyone go in or out that door ever. They always went out either through the garage or the side door by the garage.
Thank you, Mr. Lash. That's all the questions I have.
Ms. Schnapp, questions?
Were you home the evening of February 22nd?
At what time?
Well, at all?
Yeah,
Okay, what time would you have gone to bed that night?
probably between 11 and midnight, maybe.
Okay.
Give or
Did
take,
you-
I don't know.
Okay, did you see anything unusual before you went to bed that evening? Did you see or hear anything unusual after you went to bed that evening?
No,
Okay, there was nothing that woke you up or you never heard a disturbance, correct?
did not.
And the morning of February 23rd, other than seeing the front door open, did you see or hear anything unusual?
I didn't see or hear anything, no. I just thought it was weird that the door was open.
Okay, and you didn't see Tim anywhere in the Kentucky Road neighborhood?
No.
Okay. No other questions, Judge?
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You may step down.
Thank
People
you.
would release
I just want to break for a moment. I tweeted about a minute ago. I had posted my yesterday afternoon recap where I just had like the white screen with the slides on it. And I just said, this is the best I can do until Bliefnick trial video is released. I'd like to thank those at KHQA and Muddy News for tweeting the proceedings this morning. And then somebody replied, WGEM is tweeting as well. They are also not utilizing the hashtag. I don't know why people can't tweet in threads. Because then ThreadReader at the end of the day just unrolls it, export it into, or switch it to Reader View and export it into a PDF reader like Kindle or iBooks. So then I said, does anyone know where the video of the 4 afternoon witness testimonies is hiding? Also, why aren't the attorneys mic'd? I have closed captioning on, but that's not always reliable. And right away, they tweeted me back and said, we had technical issues yesterday afternoon working on getting that feed today. So I just responded, God bless you, even though I wanted to say, okay, well, I mean, can't bite the hand that feeds you, right? Okay, so this will be, let's see. So this was Brian Lash. He was also a neighbor. Then next we have Amy. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She's also a neighbor. And then witnesses 6 and 7 are a couple, Cecilia and Brandon Gervais. They're the ones that took Becky to whatever the surgical procedure she had, medical procedure she underwent. So that's coming up next, and then that's it.
Please come to subpoena, Your Honor.
Any objection to releasing him, Ms. Dunn?
No.
All right, you are free to go. Thank you, sir. Call your next witness.
Also, I wanted to mention I'm noticing Muddy River News is putting up their names, so I just have a ticker on the bottom of the 7 witnesses this morning.
Ma'am, if you could step to the front of the courtroom. And then raise your right hand and be sworn by the clerk.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you give will cause nothing before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
And if you can come around here, I'll sit right here in this chair. And scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable. And then bend that microphone so it's in front of you, and please speak towards the microphone, all right? You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you tell us your name, please?
Amy Schmiedeskamp.
I'm gonna have you talk a little bit louder. The mics don't do a great
Yes,
job.
my name is Amy Schmiedeskamp.
Thank you. Can you spell your last name for us, please?
SCHMIEDESKAMP.
Thank you. Ms. Schmiedeskamp, where do you live?
2420 Kentucky Road.
Are you familiar with Becky Bliefnick?
Yes.
Is your house in relationship to her house?
I believe it's 5 houses down.
Do you also have a neighbor by the name of Ray Bliefnick?
Yes.
And Ray Bliefnick, does he have a son?
Yes.
Who is his son?
Tim Bliefnick.
And do you know Mr. Tim Bliefnick also?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit louder.
If you bend that microphone back.
Yes, I do know Tim Bliefnick. Yes.
Do you see Tim Bliefnick here in court today?
Yes.
Can you tell us where he's sitting and what he's wearing, please?
Right here, light shirt, light tie.
Your Honor, the record could reflect Mr. Schmiedeskamp has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Now, Mr. Schmiedeskamp, you told us that one of your neighbors is Ray Bliefnick, who is the defendant's father, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Where is Ray Bliefnick's house in relationship to yours?
It sits right to the left side of my house.
So next door.
Yes.
And are you also familiar with Becky and Tim Bliefnick's 3 children?
Yes.
Have the children, at the time of Becky's death, been visiting at Ray's house?
No.
When was the last time that you had seen the 3 children at Ray's house before she died?
I can't remember the last time.
Over 1 year?
Yes.
Or 2 years?
It's been a long time. I can't remember.
But you know it's over a year.
Yeah.
On the morning of February 23rd, 2023, did you see the defendant, Tim Bliefnick, come over to his father Ray's house?
Yes.
About what time was that, do you know?
So looking back, it would had to have been between like 7:30 and 9. I drink my coffee every morning in my sunroom, and I just was walking into my sunroom and just saw him get out of his car and take a little Tykes basketball hoop up to the house, drop it off, and leave,
And you know that because you drink your coffee at the same time every morning, sometimes between 7:30 and 9.
depending on my morning schedule, yes.
At that point, had you heard, or did anybody know that Becky Bliefnick had died?
No.
Mr. Schmiedeskamp, you said that he brought the little Tykes basketball hoop. Can you tell us who he was?
Tim.
The defendant?
Mhm.
No other questions, thank you.
Questions, Ms. Dunn?
Ms. Schmiedeskamp, you didn't find it unusual to see Tim at his dad's house, correct?
Correct. We don't see him there often, but we do see him.
Okay, and there was nothing unusual to you about that morning, is that fair?
Fair.
Okay, and were you home the evening of February 22nd?
I don't remember.
Okay, did you sleep at home that evening?
Mhm.
Okay, did you hear anything unusual that evening?
No.
Did you see anything unusual that evening?
No.
Did you see Tim anywhere in your neighborhood that evening?
No.
No other questions, Judge?
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
You may step down.
Your Honor, I ask that Ms. Feud can't be released from our subpoena, please.
Any objection to releasing her, Ms. Schneider?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're free to go, ma'am.
Your Honor, the people would call Cecilia Gervais.
Okay, people, this is the last two. I'm sorry, this is all we have. Hopefully today will be better.
Ma'am, if you could step
I
to the
did
front
turn
of the
closed
courtroom, please.
captioning on, so it's not always reliable, but I have earphones
your right
in
hand
my
and be
ears,
sworn by
and
the
I can
clerk.
barely hear them.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you give from the cause and opinion before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, and then if you could come around here, please. You could have a seat right here in this chair. And if you could kind of scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable, and then bend that microphone so it's in front of you and speak towards the microphone, please. Remain quiet.
Thank you, Judge. Can you tell us your name, please?
Cecilia Gervais.
And I'm going to have you spell your first and last name.
Okay.
Court order.
Cecilia Gervais.
You go by Celia, is that right?
Correct.
Ms. Gervais, where do you live?
St. Peters, Missouri,
How long have you lived in St. Peters?
since 2016.
Did you live in the Quincy area for a while?
I did.
While you lived in the Quincy area, did you become friends with a person named Becky Bliefnick?
I did.
Tell us when you met Becky.
2012, I joined Q-Town CrossFit, where she was one of the owners.
And did you become close friends?
Yes,
Back, I think, Becky was in your wedding, is that right?
she was.
Celia, you said that you live in St. Peters, Missouri. Who do you live with?
My husband, Brandon.
The week leading up to February 23rd, that Sunday, did Becky come to stay with you and Brandon?
She did.
Why did she come to stay with you guys?
She was having a procedure done in St. Peters.
Did you know what kind of procedure she was having done?
Vaguely, yes.
You said vaguely, what did you know?
An abdominal surgery.
And when was the procedure scheduled for?
Monday morning.
So you said she came and stayed with you on Sunday, is that right?
Correct.
And what time did she arrive?
I picked her up at 3:30 or so in Hannibal. We arrived at my house around 5:15.
What did you do that evening?
We went to eat dinner at Red Robin, and then we went to Walmart to pick up a few things and came straight back to the house after that.
Then she spent the night with you that Sunday night.
Correct.
The next morning, did you take her to her surgery?
I did.
When did she get done with that?
It was about mid to late morning. I think they called me at like 11 or 12.
When you picked her up, where did you take her?
Straight back to my house.
Did she spend the night with you Monday night?
She did.
Was that planned?
Yes.
Was that so you and your husband could help her out after her surgery?
Yes.
Tell us what Becky's physical condition was after her surgery.
She was in a lot of pain, hunched over from the surgery. She needed help walking up the stairs to get to the bedroom.
That evening, that Monday evening, before February 23rd, did you yourself start to get sick?
I did.
Because of that, the next morning, did you drive Becky back home to Quincy?
I did not.
Who drove her back to Quincy?
My husband, Brandon.
During that time that Becky was with you, did she use a purse to pay at Red Robin or to get around?
She did not.
Where did she keep her credit cards and things to pay with?
They were in a slot on the back of her phone case.
The next morning, after your husband drove Becky home, did you hear from Becky?
I did.
When was that?
It was around like 12:30 or so, I think.
And was that a phone call or a text message?
She sent me a text message.
Was that just that she was back home?
Yep.
And was that the last time you ever heard from Becky?
Yes.
I don't have any more questions, Celia. Thank you.
Ms. Schneider,
Your Honor, I don't have any questions for this witness.
you may step down.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I ask that Ms. Rebecca be released from her subpoena, please.
Okay, any objection to releasing her, Ms. Schneider?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you're released, ma'am. You're free to go or stay. And call your next witness.
Your Honor, the people will call Brandon Gervais, please.
So this is the husband of the woman that just testified. He's the one that drove Becky home.
Sir, if you could step to the front of the courtroom, then raise your right hand and be sworn by the clerk.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, if you'll come around here. Have a seat in that chair. Kind of scoot up to the table to where you're comfortable, and then bend that microphone so it's in front of you, and please speak towards the microphone. Sure. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you tell us your name, please?
My name's Brandon Gervais.
And you spell your last name just like we just heard?
Yes, Gervais.
Mr. Gervais, you are married to Celia Gervais, is that correct?
Yes,
You guys live in St. Peters, Missouri?
yes,
Do you know Becky Bliefnick?
yes.
Did Ms. Bliefnick come and stay with you the Sunday before February 23rd?
Yes.
Can you tell us why she stayed with you?
Yeah, she had a surgery that she was going under on the morning, that Monday morning. Sorry, I don't know my dates, but that Monday morning. And then she stayed at our house for recovery before her post-op appointment on Tuesday morning.
Who took her to that post-op appointment on Tuesday morning?
I did.
Why did you take her to that appointment?
My wife fell ill on Monday, and because she was in her post-operative state, she didn't want to get her sick, so I decided that I would take her.
You said you took her to that post-op appointment on Tuesday morning, February 5th. I'll be honest, February 21st.
Thank you.
That morning, after you took her to that appointment, did you realize that you left her bags at your house?
Yeah, I think she left her overnight bag on the in the bathroom, and so I went back and got her bag while she was in her post-op appointment because the doctor's office is 5 to 10 minutes from our house, and so I assumed that while she was in the post-operative appointment that I'd be able to get home, get the bag, and come back to be able to pick her up in time.
After you got the bags for her, did you go back and pick her up?
Yes,
Where did you take her?
and then I took her to her house
Here
in Quincy.
When you got there, did you help her get inside?
Yes.
Was she able to carry her bags inside?
No, I carried her bags inside.
Do you remember what types of bags did she have?
Yeah, she had a backpack. I think she was taking some of her classes for nursing school, so she did some of that at our house while she was there. So she had I think it was a gray North Face backpack, and then a gray Under Armour duffel bag that she had her belongings in.
What time did you drop her back off on Tuesday morning?
It was about 11 o'clock.
After you dropped her off, did you leave and head back to St. Peters?
I actually we had my in-laws' car. My wife was home the weekend prior, and so we had their car so that we could swap car seats. So our children were in Monroe City, and so I had to drive to Monroe City and pick up our children before driving back to St. Peters.
Thank you.
That's right.
No other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Schneider.
Thank you. Just one question. When you dropped off Becky at her home that morning, there was no hesitation that you observed from her going home or being home. Is that fair?
No, I mean, I carried her bags in and put them on the couch. This was the first couch in the entryway there. But no, she went in and said she was just going to rest for the afternoon. I let her know that if she needed anything, that she could reach out. But I did not hear back from her after I dropped her off at her house.
Great, thank you. No other questions, Judge.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may step down.
Thank you.
If we could release him from his subpoena, Your Honor.
All right, any objection to releasing him, Ms. Schneider?
Okay, I think that's it.
You are released. You're free to go or stay.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
You may.
What's it? Okay. Boy, wasn't that a treat. Okay, let's see if I get rid of my... Let's try this. That's not so good either. That's not so good either. Okay, so again, if you are just tuning in and wondering what the hell is going on, I would like to know the same thing. Yesterday, in the morning, we were told that the Bliefnick trial, the video would be released, the morning one would be released around noon, and the after one would be released at the end of the day. Again, I don't know why these judges are allowing cameras in the courtroom, but then you have to wait until it's all over with to actually see it. So throughout the whole day yesterday, I was monitoring Twitter. I found a couple reliable sources. Muddy Rivers News is the video footage that we watched. And KHQA, and then now there's somebody else that said WGEM, I think is what the one is. Oh, I've got a tweet notification. They just responded yes. Okay, so the hashtag you're supposed to look for on Twitter is Bliefnick trial. Hashtag BLIEFNICK TRIAL. That's the correct hashtag you should be following. I'll put that on the screen here. On Twitter, follow the correct, let's just say the correct hashtag per Muddy News is BLIEFNICK trial. Okay, so yesterday what I did is for the morning session, I followed, like I said, those 3 sources and kind of took their tweets, put it into a Word document, and then tried to create some type of, like script out of it, which I read on all 3 of my channels around noon. And then in the afternoon, I did the exact same thing, and then also put it in like some kind of script that I could read. And I thought it would be good for you to see it in text form, so I put it in a slideshow. Now I figured out how to do this. So this is also just a recap of the day 2. So I'll just scroll through it quickly with the highlights. You can pause as needed to read it, because I don't think I need to read it. I've read it like 5 times now. The courtroom proceedings started off with Josh Jones, state attorney. Rebecca was alone with her 3 children, expected to be at Tim's house. She suddenly heard a sound of an intruder breaking into an upstairs window. And then she went into her bedroom to be safe. The intruder forced the door open, and then she went into the bathroom that was connected to the bedroom, and then she was shot 14 times. He highlighted the multiple mistakes that Tim made, leading to a subsequent arrest. One crucial piece of evidence was the discovery of shattered bits and pieces of an Aldi bag on and around Rebecca's body. Okay, see, that makes sense. This I got more details from an article that was written, so this makes a little bit more sense. He revealed, because I'm like, where's the Aldi bag from? Jones revealed that her DNA was found on a bag located in Tim's home during a police search conducted weeks after the murder. Lying alone. So it sounds to me like she laid there and bled out. So the coroner must have surmised that she didn't die from her 14 gunshot wounds immediately. They also suggested Tim had used a homemade silencer to muffle the sounds of the fatal shot. So if you listened to the recap yesterday, one of his web searches was how to make a homemade silencer. Further details emerged, with Jones informing the jury that Tim's laptop and phone had been searched. And then here's the search history we went over yesterday. Open a door with a crowbar. During the search of Tim's residence, the police found a crowbar that Jones claimed matched the exact details of the one used to break into the window of the Kentucky Road home. And then the defense attorney, Casey Schnack, argued the crime lab results for the crowbar were inconclusive. So then this just goes on to say, basically, that they were going through a contentious divorce. The motive might have been his desire to ensure that his 3 boys would go with him rather than her. He's being held without bond, which is why this trial has happened so fast. The murder just happened 3 months ago, end of February. Her body was found February 23rd. Defense attorney Schnack countered the prosecution's claims by pointing out investigators had taken around 6 pairs of shoes from Tim's home, none of which matched the footprints found at the crime scene. So inside the broken window upstairs was either a footprint or a shoe print. Now, if you looked, couldn't you tell if it was a foot or a shoe? I mean, I would think. You could see the little toe. I don't know. More questions. And then there's surveillance footage from a neighboring property. Revealed she had received several notifications. Okay, so then the one neighbor said that their security camera had several notifications from the very early hours of the 14th. So Becky's boyfriend, Ted, well, this will be in the afternoon video that we still haven't had yet. He spent the night the 13th through the 14th. And the neighbor's security camera, maybe you just go, yeah, the neighbor's security camera flagged him. And then also flagged him the 22nd, the night of the 22nd, early mornings of the 23rd. So then the rest of this is afternoon. Well, I'm just going to scroll through it. I need more coffee, I think. So you can just pause. So this is like a synopsis of the whole entire day. Even more brief and succinct than yesterday. But there's like a 37, 40-minute-ish video yesterday where I was a little bit more conscious and read what I had cobbled together. Like I said, I'm really frustrated, but can't bite the hand that feeds you. Am I right? Am I right? So without stumbling anymore on my words, I'm going to go have some more coffee at 7:39 my time. And at least we got some of this info. So next up will be, I'll probably do a chapter out of The Great Reset for my morning book club people. All right. And then around noontime, for those following the Bliefnick trial, somebody on Twitter got mad at me because I was saying Bliefnick. And I think at the beginning I said, well, I'm going to slaughter probably some of these names because I haven't seen the video. So it's Bliefnick. So around noon today, I'll try to do a morning recap to tide you over. And then in the afternoon, I'll do a full day recap, hopefully this time with video. Because this is the third video I've had to do on this. I don't know. All right. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. If you enjoyed the content, please hit that like button. Share this video on your social media. Subscribe to our channel. Turn on those important notifications. Follow us on Twitter. This channel is new, so that means we work for free. Any support is most appreciated through Rumble Rants, Venmo, or Buy Me a Coffee. All links are in the description box below. I look forward to your next visit to Crime Spies. Thanks again so much and have a blessed day.